And I've served on just about every board, every type of board possible. So some of that I understood, but I can say the same thing that Kelly mentioned, was that I didn't really know sort of what it was going to take to be a commissioner for women in particular, except that I had, like Dr. Smith, a commitment to serving in this capacity. So when the supervisor's office called, what do you do except say yes?
Righty, thank you, thank you. So we move to our next question, and this will be for Ms. Griffin. I think you kind of touched on it a little bit as to what you do, but what is your role as a commissioner? So kind of just give us.
Yeah, so currently I don't serve as a commission because I do think you need the time commitment. I think you have to be able to carve out that time, and not just for a just to be there at the meetings, but the prep before the meetings. And so I just serve really as an advisory of trying to get more, and my goal is always lifting up Black women and girls and trying to make sure that there is, particularly in the second supervisory district, that we have representation on a diverse commissions that aren't just those that seem natural, right? So if we're, like obviously, we're strong Black women, and we, of course, what I loved about Supervisor Mitchell is she wanted to make sure all three of her commissioners on the Women's Commission were all Black women. But there's some others that are really important, again, like the planning committees, because they determine kind of, what's going to happen in the second district. And we need representation there because our lens is so different, particularly as caregivers. We look at how things are going to be, built and sidewalks and all kinds of, what kind of facilities are going to come in. And that kind of comes through the planning commission before it even goes to the supervisors. So I think it's just really, important to know when you are on that commission, that it's a commission that you have passion about. So, I have passion about many things, but the core is Black women and girls. And my goal right now is just to make sure that there's enough of us across the board in all of the commissions that Los Angeles County, actually statewide. I actually work with Black women throughout the state. So we try and get as many Black women, even on the governor's different commission for the government, for the administration. So.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Williams, can you just elaborate? I know you talked, but give us a little talk about it.
Okay, a couple of things. I was co-chair of our redistricting commission. And so there were, being a co-chair it meant having additional responsibilities. And there were 2 Black women on the commission. The commission was, again, independent. We were selected in a process. We were selected through a process independent of the supervisors. What was my role as a co-chair? We were basically in the 2 co-chairs in the legal council. We were pretty much moving everything along, setting the agenda, making sure everything was happening. And we had a very competent executive director that was just pushing us ahead. But my role was to serve as part of all our working groups. We had several working groups, so the 2 co-chairs split them up. But our thing was to make sure we were we're going to meet our goals. But I think the co-chair role required additional time and commitment to the process. As everyone else, we had to hire a number of consultants. And again, we were hiring people. There was so much that we were learning as we were doing it. So I guess our role was just to make sure that we were keeping the commission moving ahead. We were paying attention to relationships because there were times when things would come up we had to address, but we can say as a group, we did not have any, we had one person who resigned, but out of the other redistricting commission, that was unusual. So our turnover was low, but our role, and my role, was to sort of, as a co-chair, be part of the lead and the leadership for that redistricting commission.
Thank you. Ms. Gorman?
So I wish I could say that I knew what my role was, but I can tell you what I think my role is. That one of the things is being an advocate and understanding the issues that are facing women and being a spokesperson for those issues and about those issues. The other thing I think is just bringing whatever my level of expertise or experience to the table to support the work that's going on in the commission. And I've been fairly new, but one of the things that has really been an advantage for me is partnering with Dr. Smith on the education committee of the Women's Commission. One, it's a place that I'm very interested in, obviously a field that I've spent a lot of my career in. And so being able to identify and select young women to receive scholarships was something that I thought really was interesting and exciting. So what I also learned is that if you find someone who can help mentor you and help you better understand your role, that's one of the really good ways to get involved very quickly on a commission, even if you're not quite sure, because the first few days I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but I'll follow somebody that looks like they know what they're doing and I'll do that. And so I just have to say that Dr. Smith is one of those people where it's like, okay, wherever she's going, I'm gonna go.
Thank you. And last, Dr. Smith?
I think one of my roles as a commissioner is to advise and advocate issues that are relevant to the board, and particularly to the district I represent, which is Supervisor Holly Mitchell, who happens to be the chair of the board, which we're very proud of that.
Yes.
And in my position, currently I'm treasurer of the Commission for Women, and I chair the Policy and Legislation Committee. And Kelly did chair it earlier, and then we tag teamed on it, and now the baton was passed on to me. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but I have the passion for it, and I'm trying to make sure I balance the time to do it. Because that role is really important, because when you're doing advocacy work and advising the board on monitoring legislation that's relevant, you want to make sure you know what you're talking about and that is appropriate. And so in that committee, we brought on Senator Sidney Kamlager to talk about legislation that we were monitoring. For an example, one of the legislation is AB 124 that she authored. And that was the health and safety legislation regarding women that are victims of domestic violence that are incarcerated. The law wasn't very gentle for those women because they didn't take into consideration the trauma that they experienced throughout their life that got them to that situation where they did have to defend themselves. And now they find themselves incarcerated, but they don't get leniency in terms of the term that they have to play. And so Sidney Kamlager's legislation said that the law must include the trauma that these women have experienced and why they're here. So that's a piece of legislation that we monitored and a piece of legislation that we support and advocate for, and let the our supervisor know that that's something that we want to support. And that is something that we do support. Another role that I play is on the education committee. And we have the opportunity to review scholarships, as Commissioner Gorman mentioned, to give students in our district. And we always put the word out, and we shared with Coalition 100 Black Women to pass the word out regarding scholarship opportunities. So we do that. And so another committee that I serve on is the Women of the Year Committee, where we just recently acknowledged our very own Ms. Kelly Todd Griffin for Women of the Year. So, and all the work that she's done with the Black Collective. And so we're just really proud of that work. So I do find that it's a lot of work. It's a lot of fun because we're getting a chance to have influence and make a difference for young students in education, for scholarships, for women in the community, like Ms. Griffith, where we're acknowledging Women of the Year, and also leaning on opportunities to be advocates in terms of legislation and opportunities for that.
Thank you,
Look,
Doctor.
and can
Oh,
I
yeah.
add something?
Yes, absolutely.
When I was thinking about it, I said, it sounds kind of hokey, but redistricting is a process where we go back and make sure that the districts have the same number of people. That's what it's all about. Just making sure, first of all, that the districts have each district is equal in population. But then the next piece of redistricting is to make sure that we keep communities, what we call communities of interest, together. So when I think about my role and our role as commissioners was to be committed to that process of equal districts, equal populations, but also to make sure we were listening to people. And what was important, and sometimes what was hard, was hearing from the people. If we don't hear what people want and what they consider a community, they're going to be left out in that process. And I think our commitment was to hear, to find ways for engagement. In the beginning, we were making presentations on hopefully educating people on what is redistricting and why it was important. So I don't know how many presentations we made, and we continued to do that throughout the process. Then we were holding hearings. So our role was to make sure that the final product of the districts reflected the wishes, I'll say, of the people in terms of making sure we kept communities of, we say, interest, which could have been around environmental issues. We'll say things such as needs, community services, because sometimes when you look at drawing your district lines, there's certain things that say, why are these people together? There were entertainment districts. So there were different needs that we were hearing from the people. So our goal was to make sure that was done. And again, our commission, that work was done. So it's a little different. And I know when Regina talked to me, I said, well, our redistricting is a different kind of commission. We're very active every 10 years. You're appointed for 10 years, but you're going to hit it and go. So just wanted to add that.
And I just wanted to say one more thing. We're chairing, right now I'm chairing the Southern Cal Commission convening for all commissioners in the state of California of women. And so I'll send that information to Chair Bacon. It's going to be on June 13th. It's a public meeting and it's of all the commissioners. And so Supervisor Holly Mitchell will be speaking, Assemblywoman Garcia and some others, specifically talking about women and equities, rights and advocacy and things we need to do now. So I'll send that to Chair Bacon so everyone can be invited and attend.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Can you think of one time or incident that was your most challenging in your role? Dr. Gorman?
No, I think that most challenging for me was just knowing what to bring to the table, what I could do and how I could do it well. When you're new on a commission or any kind of board and you don't quite know the lay of the land, you don't quite know sort of how you can fill the role. I think that's a challenge, particularly if you're someone who's a doer and wants to get involved, but have to take a minute to understand how it works and who the players are. So I think for me, it was probably the hardest was just trying to get my feet on the ground, try to understand exactly how I could contribute in ways that are meaningful and to take advantage of not just the opportunity of serving on the commission, but being a good steward of that role on behalf of the supervisor that appointed me, but also on behalf of women in the county and women in the 2nd district. And so I think that that's a really hard part about it, but it's it's a challenge worth taking on.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Griffin?
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Gorman. I think the challenge for me, and we, as she mentioned, we came in together and Dr. Smith had been in not long either in the role. So the three of us coming together for the 2nd district under a new supervisor as well, and her team was new. So there wasn't a lot of guidance. And also, so we got in and we were kind of like looking for our way of like, how do we fit? Also, we were in COVID, and so we weren't meeting in person. And so we didn't get like the same onboarding that probably some other commissioners got previous to COVID, because everything was online. And I think what made it really difficult was, finding like, what is the role? And there were already some established relationships on the commission, unlike, Ms. Williams, where, they all kind of came together and they were all, at that point, all new at the same time. There had been women on the commission for a long period of time, and that meant the commission had kind of a rhythm. And it was hard for us, in the beginning to kind of figure out which beat to get in on, because, their rhythm was like, oh, no, we can't do that. And we would be like, oh, let's do, because we wanted to, jump in and really have an impact. And it was just it made it, I think, a difficult onboarding with the distance, with us not, there's rules, like we wanted to go and meet, and then we realized, oh crap, we can't just go out to lunch and meet because it's 3 commissioners, and, then you violate all kinds of crazy stuff. And so those are, that was a difficult transition, as we, normally, if you're on a board of a nonprofit, you can do all that. And so there's just, for people to realize, we have to adhere to some of the same rules as elected officials when you are commissioners. And so you, in your meeting, your public notice, all of those things, and that was a little harder during COVID, but I think it was also harder because we were new and we were new together.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Smith?
I agree with everything you've said, everything. And I think it's hard when you are strong, educated, we are leaders, we're on the ground ready to run and get the work done. And then you have to slow down because there's a Brown Act. And you're like, oh, wait, can't email her like that. I got a blind copy everyone because
Right.
we can't speak, and then, you're trying to get things done. And then you have all these things say, oh, can't do that, can't do that. And so, and we want to get the work done because we're about the work.
Yeah.
And so for me, when I came on, I said, you know what? I just want to observe and absorb, check it out, see who's doing what, and get my feel. And so when Commissioner Gorman and Commissioner Griffin came on, I was like, oh, I'm getting everybody together. We're gonna really get it going, but I got to make sure not to email them directly and do it a certain way, because I wanted to create a team, and we were going to be the dynamic, second district team, and we still are. And so, but I think those were difficulties because you can't go at the pace that we're used to going when you're leaders and you're used to handling things and moving things around. When you're a commissioner, you have to slow it down and adhere to a lot of, the rules and regulations, and make sure you're not violating something. And it could be a big deal if you do. And so I think acronyms also, because when you come into a meeting and you're brand new, they're talking about ACCW, NCW, CCSW, but no one's telling you what those acronyms are. And you're like, okay, let me write them down. What is this one? Okay, let me look it up. They just assume automatically that you know all these things. So, and then you figure it out. I mean, they have an orientation for commissioners, and it's about 4 or 5 hour orientation. And then they go through a lot of things in details of what you need to do. But it's the acronyms that are related specifically to your commission, things that you need to know that you sort of have to learn. It's not like someone's sitting there teaching you the way it is. I've learned what I try to do is when I say an acronym now, I will explain what it is, not trying to offend anyone, but knowing I wish someone would have said something to me, and so I wouldn't feel like I need to go look it up and not let anyone know I don't know what it is. So I think just kind of taking your time and pacing yourself. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Ms. Williams, yep, you're next. Okay.
Okay, well, I agree with everything. And I think Ms. Griffin hit it on the head that we all came in together. We were all newbies together, which also meant we had to try to figure out how we can contribute. So we had working groups set up and different people who had different backgrounds were there. As a co-chair, we were kind of in between here on everything. And I'm on committees, working groups, we'll call it, that I had no background. You know, some people did, some people didn't, like mapping or, you know, some of the software issues, those kinds of things. So we were all trying we were learning at the same time. But what made it difficult is how do you trust yourself? You know, everybody, how do you trust your voice? Because we're representing people, we're trying to move things ahead. And how do you find your, I want to say sweet spot, but how do you trust yourself that what you're doing and how you're contributing is making a difference? And I think we as a group, we started to recognize each other's strengths, and that helped. But it was just challenging because it seemed like every time we thought we knew something, something came up, and we were learning things, like you mentioned the Brown Act. You know, so you can't do this, and you know, we were. I guess everybody has. The email for the county email. So we had county email, you got personal email, we're getting things here and there, and then we've got all these things. So it's just part of it was just trying to manage the change, all of the change that was happening and the things, and just managing that process of being new, moving ahead, and every step of the way was something new. But I agree, we didn't have anyone who's been there with experience other than our executive director. I have to say our executive director was a lifesaver. She kept us, if we were here, she was 5 steps ahead of us. So without her, I'm not sure how effective we would have been, but that's why we had her as our executive director. She understood the process and where we had to go.
Okay, thank you. What I have a question, and either one of you could just jump in. Percentage-wise, as far as African-American women as commissioners, do you know what that is, or can you take a stab at it and let us know? I know there's a need, but do we know what those numbers are, percentage-wise?
I don't know those
I
numbers.
don't either.
Yeah, I think I mean, the reality is, you know, the representation, we have 2 million Blacks in California. 1.1 million are female. So when you really think about, you know, kind of our representation as a whole, it's not a lot. And then you come into like a Los Angeles that has the largest percentage of Black population. You know, it's not a pathway that many of us can pursue because of time. I mean, you know, when you think about the time and you have 74% of Black women, you know, single Black moms, head of household, the time. And so there's a level of, like, you know, of opportunities, resources, all the things. You get paid, what is it, $50? You know, if you have $25, if you have to, you know, get daycare, if you have to take off of work, it's just, you know, it's not so much that we don't want to serve. It's just, it may not be, may not be able. So you usually see a certain type of Black woman that serves in commissions. And so it's really up to us to ensure that we're hearing from the community, we're connected from the community. So it's just not a one voice, because we're not monolithic. So in terms of percentages, it's very low, particularly at the state. We did a report where we were looking at, you know, how many Black women were appointed by the governor. I mean, and we're just talking about a dozen at that time, you know, and so we were trying to figure out, and these were in some of his key positions, not all over the commissions, but those big appointments. So the Yolanda Richardsons, when she was government ops, the, you know, the Dr. Burke Harris, when she was Surgeon General. And, you know, then in a year, he lost 6. And so, you know, it just, and will they be replaced by Black women is another thing that we have to make sure that we're pushing. That once they walk away, let's make sure we have another appointment.
I just saw a question. How do you, I think it's not, people aren't always aware. Women aren't always aware that there are commissions, or even what's the process getting appointed to a commission. So I think that's
That's my
that's
next
missing
question.
for,
So you
yeah.
gonna go right on into it. I said we
Okay.
informal, it's a sister girl talk,
Great.
so just go right with it. That was my
Great,
next
great,
question.
great,
Thank you.
great. So now I was just going to say, I think when you say how many are there, I think there are a lot of people who are capable and might be willing, but they just don't know how to get involved with that. And so that's another issue. How do you recruit? How do you engage? How do you get the word out for those kinds of things, for commissions?
And I think that a lot of times people think it's a secret society or something. And what I've found, a lot of the commissions that I visited, there's generally only one other African-American person there, if any. I'm the only one, or there's one other, and that's it. But it's not a secret society. There, if you go to Supervisor Holly Mitchell's website right now, she has a button on her website that says vacant commission positions. And there's another button that says apply.
Right,
And
that's what
so-
I was gonna ask. That's my question. What is the process to become a commissioner? So,
Okay, so they list on that on her website right now, it lists all the vacant positions. I can't remember them, but a few of them I wrote down because I thought I'd share. I know 2 positions are, she's looking for a commissioner for alcohol and drugs commission. She's looking for a commissioner for LA County Beach Water Appeals Board. And there's a list of them. There's a list of commission positions. And you click the apply button. For me, I applied. It was just like a regular job. I mean, you have to have your resume ready. You're going to be interviewed, but it's probably different from different people. For me, I had to apply. And it was just like applying for a regular position when you're applying for a job. And I applied. I had to get my resume together. I had to get my cover letter together. So I submitted the application, I submitted the resume, and I submitted the cover letter. And then I had an interview. And so that was it. So I interviewed for the position, and then I was offered the position. So it was just like a job. It was just like a job interview, but the application is detailed. They ask you about your experience in the community, all the things that you've done that contributed to why you want to apply. And they sit in a boardroom with a long table, several people around, and they interview you. But I'm sure each commissioner maybe had a different experience, but that was my experience. And then they send you a letter, and they'll call you and let you know that you received the position and that it's going to board for approval.
thank you. Anyone
would-
else want to jump in? Okay,
Yeah,
there you
I
go.
would say, you know, in working throughout the state, everyone has a process, but I would say the more active you are in your community, the better you have an opportunity to be a commissioner. Because that's when you meet people. That's when you know, obviously Supervisor Mitchell is very active. Supervisor Solis is very active in their communities. And so you get an opportunity to meet them and to talk with them and to understand, because you want to represent the person that you are serving on their commission. If you're the 2nd district, you want to make sure that you're representing the folks of the 2nd district and you understand the 2nd district. But when you start going into some other, I mean, there's commissions everywhere. You know, I mean, there's just, you can get appointed all in commissions at city level, at county level, at state level. There's regional things that you can be involved in. And so, you know, I think it's really about how you connect with the offices that are appointing those commissions. I think Dr. Smith has a wonderful success story. It's not typical of Black women who are going after commissions. And so a lot of times there's some programs. Joy Atkinson is here from LawPi. There's programs. BWAPA has a program in San Diego. It's Be Wild, which is Black Women in Leadership Development, started by Shirley Weber. BWAPA is Black Women Organized for Political Action. There's now 4 Black Women Dem clubs in California. These are all pathways to getting into, the pipeline of becoming commissioners, because you're meeting, you're greeting, as Dr. Smith says, you had Sydney Kamlager come in. She has, as a senator, she has she can make recommendations on state commissions. And so then if you have a relationship with her office, you can then say, I just applied for the California Women, status, a commission on the status of women and girls, would love to get a letter of recommendation from you. And she has that connection where she would be able to with you, because she knows you and she knows you committed to her district. So just, I think it's really important to know you got to know who your people are. And especially if you're not in districts where you have African-American leadership, I think it's even more important that you are embedded in your community.
Yeah, I think that's a good comment. And I agree with that. What's interesting, I applied at for the state redistricting, and I got so far in the process, but it was interesting as I was moving in the process, people were saying, I see you here, and we're pulling for you. It was interesting the kind of calls that I was getting, but I didn't get selected. But I had some friends say, Carolyn, I think you'll be good for this. So I applied. And then the county came up and someone again said, Carolyn, I think you'll be good for it, because I was not aware of the county at all. And the honest piece, and I was talking to some of the other commissioners, is that the county process was so different. I didn't even know, we applied and it seemed like we didn't hear anything. But all of a sudden, I think I finally got a note that said, congratulations. And I went, congratulations, what? Because there were a number of us who didn't know we had been selected, because the county was it was moving it along, and the process was so different. So we're like getting these congratulation letters, and it was no interview. Ours was a written submission of your qualifications. And so if you're not a good writer, you might be a strong candidate, but they were looking at what you wrote on the paper. Were you able to express why you were doing this? Could you show that you have some knowledge of the county? So that was a different process. But again, that was interesting. But I wanted to be involved in redistricting, and the county it happened, and I was happy to be selected. And there was only 2 Black women on that. There were only two African Americans, period, because that was based on the population in LA County. Both of us happened to be Black women.
Can I add just one more thing?
Right?
And here,
And you were co-chair of the.
yeah, I was co-chair. Yeah.
Yes,
I
go ahead.
just wanted to add one other thing, because we talked about the, formal process where you apply, make sure that you submit your resume, you have a cover letter. I just want to also remind people to tell people that you're interested, to talk to people and let them know that you're interested, because you never know who can make a connection for you. And one thing that I've often done is just, express my desire to serve, and someone will say, oh, because when I was appointed to this commission, I actually got a call from someone that I had worked with before. And part of it was always saying to people, I would really love to do this, or I'd really love to serve on a commission. So the other thing is, always remember to share your desires with other people who might be able to help you in the process.
Okay, we have anything else before we go to questions in the chat?
I was just gonna say what Kelly mentioned about being involved in the community, because I think also I chaired Baldwin Hills American Cancer Relay for Life. And that was really, it was a lot of work, but it was great exposure in the community. Having community meetings every week, working with cancer survivors, bringing in doctors and nurses from the community, Black nurses and Black doctors, working with, Senator Holly Mitchell, Curran Price. I mean, that exposes you to a variety of level of community leaders and politicians that you're exposed to. They get to know your work. in a
Mhm.
volunteerism way from a different
Mhm.
perspective. So I think
Mhm.
what she said was spot on. That does help. And, they see your passion and your interest, and someone knows someone who's going to say something. So.
Right, and you'd be surprised who that someone who knows someone might be, or they may call you and say, have you heard about this? You
Right.
might be interested.
Right. Or do you know, I get calls, do you know someone who would be interested
Yep.
in it?
Yep.
And then from just, people that or I remember there was a commission that was crazy. It was like they needed someone who was like an auditor or something like that. I mean, it goes across the board. Like they needed to be a realtor, real estate broker, not an agent, but a broker. And then being able to have that kind of database to be able to say, or some central place to even be able to say, do we have any, brokers that are Black women? That's another kind of thing, is like belonging to some of these organizations like yours and getting into that, connecting with the appointment secretaries to make sure that they know you as a resource. We had, Ricardo Lara reach out to us because they needed to fill some of their insurance commission seats, some of their board seats, from a consumer to a someone who was, actually in some of the one was an auto insurance expert, another one was healthcare insurance expert, and they were looking specifically for, to diversify and bring more Black women, because he realized he didn't have Black women in any of his commissions, and he had over 100 appointed seats. And so we reached out to our network, and we put a grid together and handed them a grid. And so belonging to those entities that I mentioned, as well as the California Black Women Collective, because we get people hit us up all the time, and we are only as strong as the people that connect with us to make sure, we have some sisters that would be interested in participating in commissions.
Thank you. All righty,
So-
one question.
Oh, go ahead.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I'm just over here like this. And we have some questions in the chat that we are going to address. But first, I want to acknowledge Ms. Joy Atkinson is on this Zoom. Give it up for the Joy Atkinson. Is there, you did, good highlighter, very good. Can you please do us a favor and talk to us about LawPi, what it does, what it's for? The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I try not to take up too much time. All of a sudden, listening to this workshop today, I see a perfect relationship developing between LawPi and the Coalition of 100 Black Women, because we're a training institute. If you're interested in being appointed to a commission, or if you're interested in public policy in general, if you're interested in expanding your community-based organization, we're the leadership program that offers the training. It's a 10-week course that we do in partnership with the University of Southern California. And we've been doing it for 19 years. We're going to be, our next class, it'll be our 20th year. And the women learn, when we started the program, it was for women who were we thought would be interested in running for political office. And we do have women who are interested in running for political office, but we really found that most women joined because they just wanted to learn the whole political process. They just wanted to understand how it works, how the appointments work, how you can get a job in political organizing. They just kind of wanted to know the general. So we had to kind of expand the program a little bit so that it's not just for women who are interested in running for office, even though we're proud of the women that we have had come through the class that are running for office and have run for office. And of course, our head person out of LawPi, of course, is Sydney Kamlager, who came to our program when she was working for Holly Mitchell. And when she left, she went to the Community College Board, and then she went to the Assembly and the Senate, and now is running for Congress. But we've had women on, we've had the first Black woman elected to the Inglewood City Council. We had the first Black winning the city council seat in Huntington Beach. We have the first Black woman on the city council in Culver City, and they all went through Law Pi first, and their Law Pi sisters have come forward and helped them in their elections. And we've graduated 355 women. When we do our next graduation coming up soon, it will be up to 366 women who have gone through the program. We have assistant mayors. We have department heads at the city of Los Angeles. They have an inside joke at the city of Los Angeles that if you're a Black woman, you must have gone through Law Pi because they all work at City Hall. And the head, the CFO of the LA Harbor is a Law Pi grad, Marla Blevins. So we're pretty proud of the women and the network that we have put together. And it's a 10-week program. I don't know if I explained that. It's a 10-week program. It's on Saturdays. It's only from January until April. And then we have a break in the summer, and then we start recruiting again in September and start the class every January. So we ended our class this year, getting ready to do graduation. And I think that's the basic, but it's definitely a leadership training program. And it's very concentrated. It is 10 weeks. And you're there on a Saturday from 9 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock in the afternoon, with maybe a few Saturdays off, but not many, for that 10-week course. And so I certainly will use the coalition to, when it comes time for recruitment, to start recruiting and getting some women. And it's women of all ages. You know, many people think when you have a training program, it's for young women, but we're not like that. And in fact, the beauty of our program is the fact that we're multi-generational, and that older women can learn from younger women, and younger women can certainly learn from the experience of older women. So we are intergenerational. We have, and the only thing that we say is that we would like our women to come into the program having worked a little bit in the community, having some kind of background, kind of knowing what they want to do before they come into the program. So and you do not have to be a college graduate. You just have to be an active person that's interested in public policy.
Mm-hmm.
You have me over here, literally, I'm about to cry, for real. Like, I'm serious. I can't tell you how many times I looked at that website and, just looked at that website, and you're here today. And let me
We're
get off my,
redoing that
let me get,
website too, by the way.
Joy, I spoke to Joy at the Monteith Park event, and it was for Sydney Kamlager event kickoff. And she shared with me what she was doing. And I told her, I said, we have to connect you with Coalition of 100 Black Women. And I told her about the event that was going on. And so I'm just so glad that you were able to come on board and share this information with everyone. It's it's perfect.
Go ahead.
I just also wanted to say that I'm very interested in this issue of being appointed to commissions. I'm a commissioner, and I've been on 3 commissions for the city of Los Angeles, starting under Jim Hahn, then going under Villaraigosa, and now under Garcetti. So I've been on 3 commissions, and I understand getting on a commission and having no background in that commission whatsoever. I got put on a planning commission, which is a very heavy duty commission in the city of Los Angeles, and I didn't know what the heck that was all about, except you had to go look at property and see if it was fair and built right, and who was going to benefit from it. And I didn't know anything, but I learned a lot, and you learn it really fast. But now I'm a commissioner with the board of neighborhood commissioners, which oversees the city's very large program of neighborhood councils, which is a program that's been in existence now since around 1999. Yeah, where the community is divided up into neighborhood councils, and I represent South LA. And that's been an eye-opening experience too, especially in the last couple of years of COVID and Black Lives Matters. And I love Los Angeles, but I didn't realize that there were so many diverse thoughts and ideas in the city of Los Angeles, and that there's, I hate to say it, there's racism everywhere. And so you have to continue to fight through it all the time. That's why appointments and civic engagement and all of that is so important. And why we push it so much. So anyway, but I talked enough. But thank you very much for.
Oh my goodness! You please stay right there. Stay right where you are, please. And we will definitely be in touch with you, because I've already seen in these indirect messages that there are us on our committee that's very interested. And so fingers crossed, toes and eyes crossed. Thank you so much, but stay on though. We did have some questions in the chat, and then I'm also going to bring on one of our very own coalition sisters, Gianna Judkins. I don't know if she's ready, or I did see her pop on. Yeah, there she goes. She is hot in this arena as well, and she has some things she wants to share with us. But before she does, Karen Earl in the chat though. Karen Earl, we're gonna go ahead and unmute you. It's only like 24 of us, and so I want you to ask your question again. Dr. Whitley, if you can unmute Karen Earl, is she still on?
Yes, I am.
Okay, go ahead and ask your question, please.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I'm interested, there's so many commissions, and I'm interested in how does a regular community person or organization interact with the with commissions based on your experience? What have you found works best?
LaTanya, you want to direct?
Oh,
Oh,
And
they could go ahead, jump right in.
okay, for us, the Commission for Women, it's a public meeting. And so if you're interested in being a part of attending, voicing your opinion, sharing some knowledge that you want whatever commission to be aware of, you have the right to, speak and request to speak to the commission. You can also request to get on the agenda.
Yeah, I would say, especially Karen Earl, who's over Genesee, which is a domestic violence, she's a superstar in the domestic violence world, and it's one of two, really the leading, and particularly focused on Black women and girls. I would also say, the opportunities for the learning for the commission, particularly if you think about like Women's Commission, to learn what your organization does is really kind of reaching out and, particularly trying to get on the agenda with the chair, to make sure that the commissions are aware of the work, because, when you're sitting on the commission, and there a lot of, the Women's Commission specifically, there's a lot of members, and many of the time, the perspectives that you're getting is from those women that are members of the commission in this particular case, or whoever's on the board, it's their perspective. And so when you want to add, a different perspective, if it's like public safety, when we talk about, how criminal justice reform impacts women who've been abused, I think it's just important to have that kind of person that is monitoring what's happening, what's coming out of commission when you need letters of recommendation, or when you want to, have a comment on something that may impact your organization or your participants, that may not be aware, writing letters also to the commission to get them to understand, please advocate on our behalf. But it just, it's that bi-directional communication, I think, is really important, and making sure that they know who you are and what, areas that you're focused on. So when they do need experts as well, that they're tapping into you.
Yeah, again, our commission different, but one of our biggest challenges was getting the community engaged, getting the word out. We, and the ones that were most engaged were people who were involved in redistricting in the process, and then there were coalitions. But it was the hardest thing. We had a mailing list, we were out talking, but we could not get the attention of the people we really wanted to hear from. And it is still our greatest challenge. And again, how do you get people interested in how do you get the word out to the community? And that's difficult. And not just get the word out to the community. How do you engage the community? We wanted community engagement. We wanted them participating. And we had individuals, but we know that a lot of the individuals were organized by different groups. They were representing different groups with different agendas, but it's a difficult thing when you're in a commission. But that was our biggest challenge, and I think going forward, we're still looking at it because we're trying to get lessons learned. But how do you prepare for us in redistricting? How do you prepare now for what's coming down the pike? Because as things change, it's going to be more and more important that we hear, especially like the African-American community, where our numbers are small, and they will continue to, from what we're seeing, they're going to continue to go down. How do we engage and have a voice when you're starting to look at, what's important for the community and the communities?
I thank you so much for that. We have Kimberly, our first VP, Kimberly Watson. I saw a question in the chat. Did that get answered, or do you want to ask that?
I'll ask. So my question really kind of speaks to, and I'm glad we're having this forum, because you can talk to the wrong people. And it's very important to speak to people who know. So my question really is, do you need to want to pursue a career in politics to pursue a seat on a commission? Because I have spoken to a number of people, because I am interested.
I'll answer. I have no desire for a career in
No
politics,
way.
Okay.
but I am committed to service. And that is that's what I think people are looking for from commissioners, and I'm sure that many people have, as part of their career, have served on commissions and moved into politics. But I think the important thing for commissions is that you have a commitment and a passion, as my colleagues have said, for an issue or for a community, and that you want to serve, and that you have the time, you're going to show up, you're going to be an advocate for the communities that you are working with.
And as we've also said, you don't have to know that, you don't have to have expertise in that particular area. As Joya said, and, I've said, when you get appointed to a commission, a lot of what's involved is you're learning. I mean, everybody starts off usually in the same place. Okay, now what are we doing? And, what's the process? What are our goals? And but it's the desire to be of service and to represent the community, I think, is what's important.
Ms. Atkins, you want to chime in on that?
Not really. I don't think I can add too much to it, but definitely I've been on a bunch of commissions, and I had never had a desire to run for public office. That is just not, I did not have the fire in the belly. And most of the people that I have met that serve on commissions, except for the very few, there are a few that want to build their resumes, and of course they will eventually run for office. But the vast majority are not people that are seeking further public office, not at all. They just want to understand the system. They want to make a difference in the system. And as a matter of fact, because they don't want to run for office, they figure they can have a better say so by being on a commission without having that trials and tribulations of running for public office. That's more than a notion to decide that you want to do that. So I think it's a vast majority of members on commissions do not run for public office. There are a few, but the vast majority don't.
Yeah, I would also add that the importance of the commissioners, I think people don't understand that, because you see the elected official, but really the work happens with the staff and the commissioners. So, as if you're on the planning committee, or commission, that's really looking at kind of, what's happening in the city and what's being planned. By the time it gets to the city council or the board of soups, all the work is done. And so we always talk about, if you're fighting for something at the council meeting or the supervisor meeting, you're already too late, because the commissioners, and the staff have really kind of dug into the pros and the cons and the things. And if you're not advocating at that level, it's harder at the end to come in and say, we don't want that in our neighborhood. And so it's better to do it upstream. So the commissioners actually are critical to the process versus, just being an elected official, that it's a team, like everything is interdependent. So you could still be very active in contributing to your community and not be an elected official. And, sometimes meetings do get a little rough, but most people don't even realize that the commissioners and those commission meetings have such a big impact on the policy development. So you don't have to even be up in the front row where, people are throwing stuff at you or anything. So and you don't have to raise money to run. So, it actually is a really good place to be.
We have a question from Nakia Fields. Can we get her unmuted? Nakia, can you go ahead and ask your question?
Oh, hello. I was getting used to being lazy and just typing things. Thank you for calling me out. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, I just wondered if it was like a heavily vetted experience. Like I've heard that running for office and things, and it sort of sounds like it. You mentioned some type of electronic application system, which wants you to say all your business anyway. But is there further checking into you that feels sort of invasive?
I mean, you have to do a live scan. There's just certain things that you do definitely have to do. But, I know people who have been, former incarcerated folks that have kind of gotten their life back on track, and now they serve as commissioners. I think it's just a matter of, what you're serving for. From an appointee, but it definitely, I didn't think it was intrusive at all. I just thought it was no different than a job application, and to what Dr. Smith mentioned. For me, it wasn't intrusive. So.
Yeah.
I'll follow up on why I asked that question, because I had a couple of colleagues who were considering doing something like this, and every time we were in a meeting or something and someone wanted to record, they got really anxious and they said, we can't record this because this might be able to be, whatever we're saying, we don't want it to be a public record. And they felt so anxious to me about everything they were doing. And I was wondering, was it because like a layer of doing something like this, they were worried about it causing harm to their opportunities, right? So thank you for that feedback. It's different than what I thought.
And I do have another question because I know we've mentioned about commissioner positions being non-paid, but there are some paid commissioner positions, correct? And do you know which one those are by chance?
I can mention the city, this is Joy, because there's only 2 paid commissions in the city of Los Angeles. Every other commissioner in the city of Los Angeles is unpaid. I'm a witness to that. Only on the Board of Public Works, that's a paid commission. And if you're on the personnel board, where you're listening to employee problems and complaints and issues, that's a paid. So there's only 2 in the city. So that's real easy on the city level.
The state has some paid commissions, much bigger than, some of the former, legislators get appointed to commissions that are paid and could be up to 6 figures. There's one that I love, and I would love to get on, is the cannabis one, because you get paid $178,000 a year and you only have to show up for four meetings. So that's what I would love to get on. But, again, those are ones, and the sister that we have a sister actually in LA, a young sister who's on that, who lives in Leimert Park. So she's actually in the 2nd district, and she's young sister, and she was thinking of running for office and decided, the pay for office was much lower than the pay for that commission. So she decided not to run for office. And we were like, okay.
Rashawn, you had a question? Rashawn?
Since we are having this conversation about payment, is it possible to hold a 9 to 5 and be able to hold a commissioner position? I mean, where do you find the energy and the time to be able to put in it? Because honestly, for me, like, if I could win, if I won the lottery today, I would be, of course, totally happy, quit my 9 to 5 and be full-fledged, all in with my public service and happy about it. So how do you find the time to to do your job?
I'll share when I got the job that I have now, one of the first things that I told my boss was that I am involved in community service and that was important and a priority for me, and that I hope that would be okay. And because I work at a university, that the ability to serve on boards or commissions is something that they value. So I actually indicated that it was a priority for me to be able to serve on a board or on a commission. And, they always say that if you want something done, find a busy person. So a lot of times it's about the priority that this work is something that's really important to me. It matters in not just my professional life, but in my life. And so I do find the time. It's not easy. I'm not able to do it all the time. Sometimes there are conflicts, but by and large, I try really hard. So you can find a way to make it fit. And I don't think anyone expects that you can do everything all the time. But when you show up and you're there 100% when you're in the room, that's what people remember.
I would agree with Commissioner Gorman. I also, on my job, I let them know immediately when I was offered the position, but they also already knew my passion. I'm also the founder of our Multicultural Genderversity Center. And I'm also the founder of the Women's Leadership Collective Breakfast that we do for the whole district. And so they already knew that was a passion of mine. So when I was offered the opportunity to be a commissioner, I let my my job know immediately with the LA Community College District. And they knew that was one of my passions, one of my interests. And they also knew it was allowing me to stay connected to the community. And the values matched. I mean, the committees, they have Education Committee, Health Committee, Domestic Violence Committee, Policy and Legislation, which all encompasses some of the same committees we have on our job. And so it transferred easily, and the transferring of information. So they saw it as an asset and not a deficit. So sometimes I think as women, we lower ourselves because we're supposed to be so grateful for everything, and we don't want to stir the pot and upset anyone. But when it's something you want and something you believe in and you're passionate about, you have to just sometimes step out that box and let them know who you are, what you want, what your interests and goals are. Because if you don't share it, they won't know. And you'd be surprised. A lot of times your job will work with you and support you and to allow you to achieve that balance between work and your volunteerism.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else want to chime in on that one before we?
I was just going to add, I was thinking about our commission, and we had people on the commission who were in their 30s, the full range. A few of us were retired, lucky enough to be retired, but people were really, I guess they were committed to finding a way. And one of the things we tried to do was make sure we were needing to have some additional time. We always work with people's schedules for that. And even I'll say this, for me and several people, when we traveled, we called in. Because the nice thing about when with COVID, well, not the nice thing, what made it convenient is that we had Zoom. We weren't meeting in person, because meeting in person would have made it very difficult, I have to say, for the last 2 years, the kind of work that we were doing. But being able to use Zoom, people were calling in. One lady was in France, we didn't even know where they were. I called in from Dubai. Almost every trip I took, I was calling in. But it was my commitment to be there. And again, they can work with your schedule, but a lot of times your job is happy to know. In many cases, I won't say all the time, but they want you to be involved in the community. And hopefully that's what you'll be able to work that out if you're really interested in being on a commission.
And that, yeah, it's almost what Ms. Atkinson was saying. Sometimes your place of employment will see it as prestigious to have one of their employees on a commission, and may even do references. So yeah. We have a question from Buffy Hunter. Buffy, you want to go ahead? Dr. Whitley, can you unmute Buffy so she can, but Buffany, I'm sorry.
No worries.
I'm sorry. My apologies. Go ahead.
I get Buffy, Buffalo, Buffany, B, it all works. Thank you all for hosting tonight's conversation. I've really enjoyed following all the different organizations. I'm a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Ms. Joy Atkins, you actually are one of our charter members, Mu Lambda Omega. And I'm very interested in being in this space. I actually just submitted my application for the county earlier this week. And I'm a past president for the Junior League of Los Angeles. So we do a lot of work in terms of the public policy space. But just really trying to understand, state versus county versus city and navigating politics. And is there like a particular level people should be exploring? Thank you.
Say they're all so different, right? So politics is local. I'll always say that. And so locally, it's probably easier in the city to get on, unless you're in a big city like LA or Long Beach. But if you're in some of the smaller cities like Carson, Inglewood, because you really only have to engage with a smaller geographic area. And so you can have a presence. The state is such a process because, the governor, if it's a governor appointee, there's an appointment secretary that kind of goes through all of it. There's all the departments that get appointments, like the constitutional officers, the state legislature, have seats on the different commissions. And so it's just it's a process. So you really need to know like which ones you want to go on and kind of what is that pathway to get me there? Who should I know? What should I do? A lot of times, like I mentioned earlier with, Insurance Commissioner Lara, there's certain criteria that some of those seats you need to have. You need to be brokers or you need to be in the insurance industry, but there's always consumer seats there or at-large seats that are open. And so those, I think, just take a little more research, but keep in mind the per diem is probably the same, whether you're working at the state, the city, or the county. And in some regards, actually, the county is LA County is one of the lowest. Actually, the $25, $35 that you get is one of the lowest, and with a bigger scope. And so you really just need to figure out what you want and where you want to serve. But that I could say the hardest is the state because of how many seats in. Particularly a lot of things, if it needs Senate approval, there's another process for that. If you're getting appointed, some of those seats do need to go to the Senate, and it's just concurrent review, but it's still a long process. So I know people who put their applications in for a very long time and they never got, any feedback. And then we, would reach out from the collective and send a note and say, we have some Black women that are interested in these seats, here are their names, and they then at least get a returned email and stuff. So sometimes it really is, understanding the power of collectiveness, because it's complicated. It's not always, she said, Joy said they don't even get lunch at the city. So it's just knowing where you want to serve. I mean, and to piggyback on Joy, I have got people look all the time at, like, if you're on a commission, if you're on a board, the further you get up on your career, those are all value adds to your resume. And so, if you want to serve and you don't have a lot of time, you can serve at a city and it's still just as good as serving at a state. But a lot of people like to say, as Dr. Gorman knows, governor appointees are really like, kind of big doggone deals.
And I do have a governor's appointment, and I actually applied and completely forgot. It was 2 years, and I got a call from the governor's office, and I did not even remember that I had applied to serve on a public board. So I was then invited to go to Sacramento to interview with the governor for the appointment. So it's to me, a much more intensive process. It's not I think as a commissioner, because you have relationships in the city or in the county, you then have relationships with those who can appoint you. But a governor's appointment takes just a much longer time and can be a much more arduous process.
Did she answer? Are you good, Buffy?
Yes, thank you so much.
Did you actually say I'm sorry if I missed this, that you had applied already, or?
I just applied, I believe, on Monday.
Oh,
at the county level.
Can you share? Yeah, can you share? Is it okay to share which commission?
And was it city?
It was
county or?
It was the county level. So I'm in Supervisor Mitchell's district. So in my cover letter, I mentioned 3 commissions, but I said I would be open to serving where they believed was a good fit. And I'm not sure if technically all the commissions were open. I know they listed the vacancies, but of course there are some commissions where someone is still serving, though their term expired. So those were some of the ones that I listed as well.
Well, please, one of our coalition sisters, Rashawn, will put back in the chat, please, Rashawn, our contact information. We would love to know how your process is going. And if you need to connect with one of these sisters, I'm sure wouldn't mind mentoring. I know they're very busy, so I don't want to add to your jobs. I just threw your names out there, didn't I? Add to your jobs, but she's putting information in the chat shortly, so that if you need to connect, go ahead. And we just wish you all the best, sister, and we hope that you get the position that God will have you to be in. So we wish you well. We wish you well on that.
And if you can send me yours again. I'm serving as an advisor on advisory committee for the 2nd district. So send me what you sent them, and then I will get that to Frederica.
Okay, thank you so much.
Who is Supervisor Mitchell's chief of staff.
Okay, I'll do that next.
There was a question, let me see, I think it popped in the chat before. Rashawn, there was a mention of board training, and how would you go about finding this training opportunity?
Well, I can share that I am a lead faculty for the African American Board Leadership Institute, and ably provides training for African American professionals to serve on boards. So it's a 3-week training program that introduces the participants to board leadership, board governance, finances, sort of everything you need to know about serving on primarily nonprofit boards. But the African American Board Leadership Institute also has seminars on corporate governance, how to serve on corporate boards, and also does a session at least once or twice a year on serving on public boards and commissions. So you can reach out to me, happy to connect you with Ably. if you're interested in getting the training.
So,
You all are stuck with us. Sorry.
I know.
We're sticking like glue.
Yeah, we
Okay.
have to.
Yeah, so right now I would like to add our coalition sister Gianna Junkins, who's full of knowledge, and this is her passionate journey. So Gianna, why don't you come on, if you can tag her or whatever that proper word for that is, and come on, Gianna, and share what you have for us.
Hi, ladies. It's good to see you all tonight. Want to give a shout out to our first VP who's on, our chair, vice chair, all the coalition sisters, commissioners, elected, and any other guests that I missed. We are appreciative to have you all on, and we're excited to help you all in your journeys. As we know, we need more Black women at all levels of leadership, whether that's executive, whether that's legislative, whether that's judicial, community, or nonprofit. We certainly hope to see you all get through those doors. I'm just here tonight to share a couple of additional political training programs. And thank you so much, Ms. Joy, for telling us more about LawPi. That was one of the ones I had on my list. So I'm so happy that you all got to hear that directly from the leader herself. Just a couple of more, so you don't have to worry about taking notes. I put this in a document that we hope to share with you all after tonight's call. But one of the programs, for those of you who are interested in kind of political training programs, that is the New Leaders Council. There are chapters all across the country, and we are fortunate to have one here in LA. It is a 6-month local leadership training program. You normally meet on a Saturday and a Sunday during that 6-month period. It's very much like LawPi. You're gonna go from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. But their program really focuses a lot on goal setting, communications, fundraising, finance, management, public policy, and organizing. You do not need a political background. We have folks that are religious leaders, folks that are nonprofit, healthcare, pretty much any and everything there. You know, if you've been able to identify a need in the community, this program is for you. I completed the program in DC, so I can speak more at length about that for those of you who are interested. The program itself is free, but there is a $30 application fee. And if you get accepted, you pay $200, but it's optional at the end if you want it refunded. They really focus on equity. So if you need scholarships or what have you, that is available there. The next program is through Emerge California. This program is specific for those of you who actually want to run for office. So it's a 6-month intensive training program. This program, I know we're nonpartisan here, but Emerge is a Democratic program. So for those of you who are interested on that side of the aisle, that program would be for you. They train about 60 folks every year, and you're split up by region. So Northern Cal, Southern Cal, and then the Valley. And their training, again, is 6 months, so it runs from the first half of the year, January to June. There's an application fee of $50, but the rest of the program is free, and they also have fee waivers for anyone who is in need of that. The next program, and there's a lot, so bear with me, but I wanted to make sure you guys had as many as I could tell you about that I thought would be helpful. The next one is through Coro, Southern California. They have all types of programs. So whether that's a training, whether it's like a leadership institute, you have to go on their website to see them all because they have about 6 to 8 programs total. So they go in different directions and spectrums. And mind you, all of the programs that I've named, you do not need like a degree in politics or anything like that. If you have an interest, these are open to you, but Coro, so there is an application fee and there is also tuition, and it varies by program. So I would encourage you to check it out. There are programs specific for electeds, for those that want to do nonprofit leadership, for those that just want an introduction to how does this all work? Where do I fit in it? They have all of that available to you. And then next for this evening, I wanted to share a couple of national programs, and sticking with our theme of nonpartisan. One is the Yale's Women's Campaign School. They are a nonpartisan, issue neutral leadership program. Congresswoman Lauren Underwood graduated from this program and the New Leaders Council. It's 5 days. It used to be, before the pandemic, you would actually take your classes at Yale for those 5 days so you could meet your cohort. But right now it's virtual. The application fee is about $65, and there is a separate cost for tuition, but they do have scholarships available. So don't let the cost deter you at all. For those of you, if your employers see this as an asset or benefit, definitely try to get them to pay if you can. And I'm willing to help out with any letters you need to give your employers for that. The next program, the Congressional Black Caucus, they have 2 programs. So one is a boot camp, and the other one is what they call ACT, and that's their advocacy training program. The locations vary. More often than not, there's one that's in DC every year, normally in the summertime. But this year they have one closer to us, but it's going to be in Denver. So I encourage you to check out the website. Their programs are free. All you'd have to take care of is, of course, your lodging and transportation to get there. But normally you have CBC members who are representative of that area that will show up. They do some great work with the Collective PAC and others that are very invested in our community and making sure that we have all of what we need. 2 more or 3 more. The next one is also nonpartisan, and this is at American University. It's called the We Lead Training Program. Congresswoman Underwood graduated from that as well. So she got a lot of training before she ran for office. So I say that to say these programs are definitely valuable for those of you who are interested. We Lead, their application is going to be opening soon, and it will be for the 2023 class. The application fee is $50, but again, you don't have to have an interest in politics. So their program is not only for running for office, but it's also for if you have any interest in political leadership. So whether that's being a chief of staff, a consultant, a comms director, anything that kind of touches that orbit, this program would be for you, and it is nonpartisan, so you get some great perspective on both sides of the aisle, which I found to be helpful as you think about how to bring communities together, especially in these polarizing times. So it's something I would encourage you to check out. And the last 2 programs, these are going back to the other side of the aisle, but please remember that the coalition is nonpartisan. But the last 2, one is ARENA, so it's called the ARENA Academy. They have a program, and they used to be in person. Right now it's virtual, but they have 7 tracks. So whether you're interested in campaign management, communications, data, digital, finance, organizing, their program is for you. You can select what is of interest to you. There's no cost to apply. However, they do have tuition for their 5-day program, and that is $300, but they also have scholarships. So don't let money stop you from accomplishing your goals if possible. And the last one is through the National Democratic Training Committee. They have what they call their Staff Academy, very similar to ARENA. You pick the track that you're interested in. All of their programs are free. You don't pay an application fee, you don't pay tuition. Their program is 10 weeks long, and you work with folks all across the country. There's many more programs, and I will work to expand this list, but it's a Friday night, so I didn't want to hold you all too long, but just wanted to share those for you because there are resources out there. There are like-minded women, and there are folks that are available to help you accomplish your goals and to represent us. A lot of these programs don't have many faces that look like us, so it's very important if you can, whether you're interested or know a young woman or older woman or more seasoned and sassy lady who is interested, certainly tell them about it because we could use that representation.
So as you all can see, we are extremely blessed to have Gianna on the Public Policy Committee. Yes. Dr. Woodley, can you do us a favor and just put us all on a gallery view real quick before I turn it over to our first VP of gallery view? Can we do gallery view? So everybody's on, we can see everybody, or is that just me and I need to put gallery view? There we go, that's me. Before we go though, really quick, I just wanted Ms. Griffin to talk really quick on the California Black Women's Collective. That was one thing I wanted them to hear before you left, real quick.
Oh, sure. So we are Black Women's Collective, California Black Women's Collective. We're a collective of Black women throughout California. We initially started with, we were pushing for a call to action around having a Black woman appointed to now Vice President Kamala Harris's seat. And then we decided to keep that effort moving. And so we have Black women organizations, including like LAWPI and BWAPA and all throughout the state. And basically what we do is we keep Black women connected so that we can lift up our voice, our issues, and our power. And we've been really active throughout different campaigns and initiatives, and we've just established ourselves as just being a voice and not being represented by someone else lifting our voice on our behalf, and particularly looking at how do we move this agenda forward. And so we produced the State of Black Women in California report, and it really was looking at our quality of life indexes compared to our counterparts. And then we created a legislative priority list, and so we've been working through that and working with Senator Kamlager and the Legislative Black Caucus to be able to push agendas forward. And we have a couple of big asks. Hopefully we'll be able to announce in the next couple of weeks that really will kind of showcase who we are. We love to have, we have some of the 100 Black Women chapters as part of our a collective. Again, we're not an organized organization. We do have an Empowerment Institute where we do some programming. But we'd love to have you guys join us. We have a call on Monday. I'll put it in the link. You guys can send me an email and I'll add you to our rotation. But if you want to connect with Black women throughout California, please join this effort. And we try and promote everything that every organization does. We don't keep the information to ourselves. We want everybody to know.
Thank you so much. This has truly been an absolute blessing. I'm sure everybody agrees. Guests, any of our guests that's on, I know we have your email, I believe, through Bitly, but if you want, go ahead and put your email addresses in the chat. If you don't mind, you can do it directly or you can do it indirectly so that we can stay in touch and share with you about upcoming events that I know our first VP programs will do for us very shortly. But again, this has been beyond a blessing. I'm so fired up right now. Oh, Miss Joy, you gonna blow your phone up, Miss Joy. And all the commissioners, you all have truly, I don't know about the rest of you, but you all have truly inspired. I mean, I'll talk to God. Well, that's another story. But anyway, truly inspired. And I'm gonna now turn it over so that we don't be here until midnight. Turn it over to our first VP of programs. But thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank you, Monique. This is a wonderful, wonderful event. Monique has been instrumental in bringing to our community the who's who of our public policy community all over Los Angeles, the city of, the county of. So thank you, public policy team, because we know that this could not happen without the efforts of all of you working together. So thank you so much. Thank you, LaTanya. Thank you, Gianna. You have been amazing, and I am honored to work with all of you. I appreciate you so much, as I know this group right here, they have it. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to run behind you, and I appreciate that so much. Thank you. So I wanted to just thank all of the members of our commissioners panel, Dr. Regina Smith, Carolyn Williams, Dr. Yolanda Gorman, Kelly Todd Griffin. We appreciate you so much for taking the time to share your experience with us. We hope that this has been helpful to all of the members who are joining with us today live in person. And then all of you who will be watching this in the future. We do offer events like this quite often. So we ask that you make sure that you subscribe to our social media outlets, our YouTube, because we will always post the latest and greatest from those in our community who you need to know and opportunities for you to get to know them. And then we want to make sure that you share this information with your sister circles so that we can continue to just really empower women to step into those leadership spaces. There are so many opportunities that go unfilled because we don't know. And it is so important to us as the Coalition of 100 Black Women to make sure we are getting the information out there. But we also implore you to share this information because we can't have everybody here all at once. But if each one of us reaches out to our circles, then we will make sure that it happens for us. So before we end, I want to invite all of you to join us on Saturday. We will be at the KJLH Women's Health Expo. We have a booth there. So if you are so inclined, please stop by, say hello. And then in June 11th, we will be having our end of the year gala. We will be celebrating who's who, the sheroes in the community. And we would love for all of you to participate in that. And Rashawn, if you could post the link
It's
in the
in
chat.
there. It's in there about 5 times.
Yeah. So we do have information about the Who's Who. It's going to be June 11th, and it will be held at the Proud Bird at 6 o'clock. So please come out. It's going to be a casual. What are we doing?
Gala.
Gala, classic.
Gala.
So, but thank you again, everyone, for participating. This has been wonderful. I'm excited. I know Monique is excited because we have been pushing her in spaces that are outside of her comfort zone. And this is very much a part of her comfort zone. So now get ready because it's about to happen. But thank you again and have a wonderful evening. We love you. We appreciate you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Joy Atkinson, for coming on. Thank you. We appreciate you so much. And Dr. Regina Smith, you made it happen.